But I don't have any of that. So we're just going to take another shot. Shots. More shots. Remember that song? Shots? Shot, 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 shot. Ben Shapiro! Ben Shapiro reacts to insane sex ed video shown to first graders. How old are first graders? 6 years old. 6 years old are first graders. Yep. So let's see what sixth graders are watching. And let's see what's so insane about this. How much you want to bet it's not going to be that insane? It's just going to be very like, I don't know. Are they going to say the word penis or something? And Ben Shapiro's going to be like, oh, you can't say penis. Let's see.
Obviously is an ongoing campaign by some radicals to basically indoctrinate your kids in their version of sexual values. The biggest problem is that this sort of radical position is becoming quite mainstream across the land.
Okay.
We're seeing public school educators who have decided that if you teach your kids traditional biblical values with regard to sexuality, for example.
Ben Shapiro, you're Jewish.
That this is a form of indoctrination and that you are a bad parent. That if you don't
well, they like the Old Testament. Shut up.
Teach your kids about gender fluidity, that if you don't teach your kids about the exact moral equivalence between different forms of sexual activity, then this means that you are somehow
moral equivalence, what?
Depriving your children. And this has driven the radicals to new depths. Today's story, courtesy of
the Bible is Jewish too. The New Testament is not involved in his faith whatsoever.
Daily Wire. Parents at New York City's elite private Dalton School have come out in force against videos dealing with the topic of masturbation that were shown to their first grade children.
Okay. First grade. Okay, we just talked about this. First graders touch their dicks. Should probably talk about them not touching their dicks in front of people. And how no one else gets to touch their dick. You know, consent stuff. This is pretty normal stuff that you should talk about with about a 6-year-old, yeah. You don't have to be like, here's some techniques. Like, here's my favorite video to watch. No, but talking about like, hey, if you touch your dick, it's okay to do privately. Don't hurt yourself. Don't let anybody else do it. That's your body. And you don't get to do that to anybody else either. I'm sure that's probably what's being talked about here. I would be very shocked to find out that this first grade video is like, sometimes when I masturbate, I like someone to spit in my mouth. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's what's going to be happening. So, yeah. I'm going to imagine this is very tame, and they might just say, like, the word penis or vagina or something like that. Clitoris, vulva, stuff like that. Breasts, testicles. I want to teach my kids about cutting up my concubine and mailing her around. Yeah, that's true. You can find that in Judges 19 within the Bible, if you'd like. If you want to find out how to murder your concubine and send her body parts to the other tribes of the Jews in the desert, you absolutely can. Okay, here we go.
Parents who sent their kids to the $55,000 a year school have bombarded the school with complaints about Dalton Director of Health and Wellness, Justine Eng Fonte's curriculum, the New York Post reported. Fonte showed 6-year-olds a cartoon during her sex ed class that featured small children discussing touching themselves because, quote, it feels good. Here's what that cartoon sounded like.
Touching yourself does feel good, for the record. And nobody knows that more than a 6-year-old who just found that out.
How come my penis gets big sometimes and points up in the air?
That's a funny way to talk about a boner. And guess what? I was right. How come my penis gets did he say hard sometimes and points up in the air? That's amazing. It means he's on his back, of course, which is how I also figured out all of that. So big gets big. Wow, Timmy. Okay, dude. A little full of himself, I guess. Well, whatever. Big. It gets big? Maybe bigger. All right, dude. Maybe bigger, Timmy.
That's called an erection.
Sometimes I touch my penis because it feels good.
Sometimes when I'm in my bath or when Mom puts me to bed, I like to touch my vulva too.
I'm a fucking psychic. I'm a fucking psychic, dude. Are you kidding me?
You have a clitoris there, Kayla, that probably
Did they blur this or was this blurred?
feels good to touch the same way Keith's penis feels good when he touches it. But have you ever noticed that older kids and grown-ups don't touch their private parts in public?
They don't?
That's right, Keith.
This
It's
is...
okay to touch yourself and see how different body parts feel.
What?
But it's best to only do it in private.
What? That's reasonable. What? Come on, dude. That's very reasonable shit. They used the word penis and vulva, and he got a little graphic about his weird boner. Apparently, he's got a huge boner. Whatever, dude. Okay? You got a huge boner. I didn't need you to body shame me, all right? I didn't need that, Timmy. But what was said there that was wrong? At most, that was a little bit different than I would word it. I would not say my penis gets big and points to the sky. That's not how I would write that. But, because that makes me go, ha ha ha, immediately. I'm a 30-year-old, or 30, I don't know, I'm over 30. It's 30-something, and my birthday's in a couple days. Sure. But, let's be real. The rest of that shit, the rest of that message, hey, it's okay to touch your ding-ding when you're alone and make sure nobody else touches your ding-ding and you don't get to touch other people's ding-dings. You know, adults don't touch their ding-dings in public, and so neither should you. It's okay to explore your own body. There's nothing to be ashamed of. That is a fine message. Trim my nails. Eat my ass.
I mean, first of all, I just have a question. Since that seems kind of judgmental to me. I mean, so long as they're teaching kids about masturbation in first grade, I don't see why it should only be in private. I mean, shouldn't we learn from the innocence of the children? And truly, if you're on the radical left and you believe that this sort of stuff should be taught to the children, why?
I'll tell you why. That's a great question, Ben. I'm so glad you asked. Why should we teach children about their bodies at 6 years old when they're touching the absolute bejesus out of their genitals? Why should we teach them? Because specifically this, okay? Specifically this. Consent. Very important to understand consent. That kid knows that now, just with that, it's okay that my body feels a way or is doing a thing. It's okay. So I'm not weird. I don't have to have anxiety about that. That's comforting. Number 2, it's okay that you explore your body. It's yours. That's valid. That, again, reduces anxiety in kids, makes them more comfortable, and will make them more likely to talk about experiences they're having, which is good because their sexual health is, of course, also just their health. That's important to everybody. Number 3, it established very clear lines and delineations on who gets to touch your body. You do. Nobody else. That's it. And you don't get to touch anybody else's body. That's important. That's consent. We're teaching from an early age that other people's bodies are theirs and your body is yours. That is not something that we were taught as children in the 90s. That is not what we were taught. We were taught basically, don't do any of this because it'll be scary or something. They didn't teach us at all about consent. And I guarantee you, if you taught about consent from an early age, and this is what we preach all the time on this channel, I'm huge into that kind of sexual education. Consent, all the way through sex ed, starting at about this age, at about 6. Again, I think the way they worded that, my penis gets big and points to the sky, was written by a woman or something, or someone without a penis, or I don't know, or took the line from a kid that they have that said, that kids say the darndest things kind of shit. It's just disarming and it's comedic and it detracts from the message. But if you said, sometimes my penis feels funny and I don't know, it points to the sky and it straightens out or something like that. That's something you could say and it gets straight. Then you can be, oh, that's an erection. That's normal. Right now, when you're that age, it's going to happen sort of randomly sometimes. Just be sure that if that does happen, that you don't, you keep that to yourself because it's a very private thing. Gax, thanks for following, dude. And then also ensure that, like, and if anybody, and don't let anybody else, touch it. That is for you. That's your body, and no one else can do that. That's consent. And make sure that they know that they have bodily autonomy and shouldn't, because that can put kids in dangerous situations if you have predatory people around. I mean, shit, even just having other kids around that do that, they can normalize violating consent, and you don't want that in those kids because then they could turn predatory in their adulthood. And so these are just very important things. This is normal shit, dude. This is normal stuff. It is. I guess it can be uncomfortable for some people to have these discussions. It was formerly uncomfortable for me to have those discussions when I was a kid, but my parents were bad at it, right? My mom didn't know how to fucking deal with a penis, that's for sure. My dad certainly didn't have a good... You know how my dad talked about... I've mentioned this before on stream. I did not know toddlers masturbated. Yeah, they do, but it's without... I don't know that toddlers... I don't recall being a toddler and doing anything to completion. I certainly didn't know what I was doing or that I was doing it for sexual needs. You know what I mean? Raven, thank you so much for the 3 months. Yeah. So I think the way that kids masturbate before it becomes like a sexual thing. It is sexual, but it's not like presently sexual. It's like secondarily sexual, where it like feels a way. And again, it's very similar to teething. I recall it, my experience being very similar to like an itch, where it gave me relief to I did this, so I must have like squeezed it and shit. It wasn't really masturbating in the way that like a teenager will do it, like to empty your balls, but like it's definitely a form of it for sure in hindsight. Not knowing what you're doing, and I remember being like maybe 12, 13, 11, somewhere in there. And turning my hand, I've taught this, I've said this before. Instead of doing this, I did this because this made more sense to me, because that's more of a hole than this is. And then it got like I remember the vinegar stroke. You guys know what the vinegar stroke is? That sort of right before it's gonna happen. The vinegar stroke's the critical moment. Are we turning the car around, or are we going through? We blowing the red light. You know what I'm talking about? It is a king move. I agree. But I distinctly remember that weird feeling and getting scared of it and not knowing what was going to happen. And then like a little bit of clear fluid came out or something. It certainly wasn't the same experience I have now with my manly loads, but you know what I mean? Like, and I don't think that's embarrassing. There was a time telling that story I would have been embarrassed. I feel nothing about that now. There's 400 of you who have just learned about my first dick experience, and really it doesn't bother me at all. And I don't think it should bother anybody. We shouldn't be precious about this stuff. If I had 6 years before that, 7 years, 8 years before that, had interactions with adults that were teaching me about consent in my body, I would have known what I was doing to some degree, like especially getting into 11, 12, 13, whenever that first time was. Excuse me. And I wasn't even like thinking about anything except how it felt, right? There wasn't like a sexual thought. There wasn't like a picture. There wasn't like a, another thing. And granted, we didn't have the internet the way we have it now. I think it's even more important understanding that now kids will have very quick access to porn quickly. And like quickly in their life. They'll have quick access, literally, like they can go boop, 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 quick. And then they'll quickly, within their development, also have that. So it's important to understand that we have to like get ahead of the curve on this, and we have to understand, we have to make sure consent is a thing, because there are some unrealistic expectations involved with some porn, if you know what I'm saying. There's not only from like a just a positional or a efficacy standpoint, there's some fucking athletes doing some things in some of that content. But there's also like vague ways that consent is treated, and there's also obviously porn is incredibly male gazy and oriented towards the male experience. The masculine person in porn is usually, especially mainstream porn, is usually the person that is focused upon, and the feminine people within that are not necessarily supposed to enjoy themselves to a degree. They're there for they're like fuck slaves, basically. It's like pretty fucking, it's not all porn, but I mean, like, this kid, they're not gonna have the most sophisticated fucking porn interests as a teenager or a budding preteen when they're looking at their first porn, right? They're gonna be like, blowjob, and they're gonna click on something. You know what I mean? They're gonna be like, titties, cum, and it's just gonna be like really fucking, it's gonna be the shit that in your formative years can really affect your outlook on sexuality. And that's not, I'm fine with porn being a thing, but I'm not fine with kids being uninformed about their own bodies and consent and all of the stuff that goes into sexuality and hitting porn before they get that, right? So we should be educating kids with the precognition, the knowledge that access to sexuality and also from their peers, like with sexting, with selfies, with the way that you can explore each other's bodies from a safe distance, it's like that's a thing we have to deal with. You can't just say, don't send nudes to your boyfriend. You want to. I mean, kids want to fuck. It's just what they want to do. I was a kid. I wanted to fuck. I didn't know why, but I wanted to. I was 13 years old, and now I'm fucking just cum brain forever. That's just what it is. I mean, I don't understand how you can ever be against something like this. Google image search boobs. Absolutely. I'm in their 30s and those are still my porn searches. Hey, look. If your porn searches are still very vague like that, I'm very happy that you can get off to boobs, okay? But as a man who's played with my share of boobs, God, I love boobs. I love a butt too, though. Butts are great. Butts are great. In fact, I think butts are better. But gotta love a boob too. So it's just one of those things. I just can't get off to it now, though. It's just I'm too experienced. You know what I'm saying? Porn searches are not the same as what I want in reality, and that's also a thing. Like you know what I mean? I entered at the right time. You damn right you did. We need to talk about consent. This is super important. And Ben Shapiro sheltering his children from this kind of stuff and telling other people to shelter their children is going to lead to a lot of fucking bad people. Not only are they going to have like bad experiences in life due to their ignorance of sexuality, and they're going to have a very stressful time as they come to grips with whatever their sexuality is. But these people often, sadly, have run-ins with consent in negative ways, whether they are not revoking it when they probably should have been able to. Like, they didn't know that they could revoke consent, which is a huge problem. They didn't know that they weren't obligated to give consent, which is a huge problem. They didn't know that they could have consent revoked from them. There's lots of things that happen here, and it can lead to bad experiences, whether they're the victim or the perpetrator. A lot of these things happen because we don't educate people. It's just a truth. And I don't really know why we have to pretend that these aren't problems, like they are. And it's very quickly fixed by cartoons like this and just having honest discussions with your kids and making sure that they also get it when they're in education professional spaces.
I mean, really, isn't that why are you teaching them shame? Are you kink shaming these children?
What do you mean? Wait, first of all, children do not have developed kinks, and that's a fact. We should not be talking about children's kinks when they're 6 years old. Okay, we're baby steps, Ben. Baby steps. Let's talk about consent, and we can get into kinks, in the teen years, okay? We can talk about that. Jesus fucking Christ.
The bizarre perversity of teaching this to first graders is beyond me. But let's be real about this. I don't think sex ed should be taught in public school classrooms at all.
Oh, yeah, because you're weird. Knife Party, thanks.
I think they should be learning biology.
You think they should be learning biology? They just said penis and vulva, and it feels good when you touch it, which is literally biological, and you got mad. What do you mean? That was literally a biological conversation. What? The thing we just watched was biology. Amazing. Amazing.
Like basic human biology would be good.
Penis, vulva, basic. Boners are basic biology. I don't know.
We have schools that are churning out kids who don't know basic reading or math. But
What?
you're going to let these moron teachers somehow teach your children about sexual values. Makes perfect sense. Sounds great. About 120
He's so
juniors,
fucking
girls and
stupid.
boys at Columbia Grammar and Prep School were subjected to Fonte's class called Pornography Literacy, an intersectional focus on mainstream porn, because she taught at an elite Manhattan school for high school students.
For high school students. I was like, are they teaching toddlers about porn? Probably. I'm not even on board with that. Nope. High schoolers. Yep. On board with it. I just fucking talked about this literally 1 second ago. Yes, I think maybe we should talk about the effects of porn and the expectations therein. And guess what? You know what's really cool about this? You know what's really cool? If we teach a generation of people how to interact with porn and their access to it, porn's going to get really fucking good. I'm just saying. It's going to get really fucking good in the future if we have people that know how we should interact with it. Ben doesn't fuck. Confirm he does not. Yeah. Think about that. Just saying. Gonna have a bunch of people that understand consent and understand that more people than just the dude can enjoy sex. And oh my God, porn might actually become something I would watch again. I don't really watch a lot of porn, chat. I had to pick neither. Butts are eye candy. Breasts are interaction candy. Well, I guess it depends on. It depends on how you interact with things.
So that's great. Teaching high school students about an intersectional focus on mainstream porn. I mean, you do need to make sure that kids are, when they're focusing on their spank material, you have to make sure that they are really focused on intersectionality.
The intersectionality of porn and stuff like that is part of what we're talking about, right? Because there's a lot of porn that again can be problematic if you don't understand the context of such things. Now, there's also ways that you can consensual non-consent, for instance. That's a very like deep and interesting topic that a lot of people can talk about. Like there's a you know, lots of kink around the idea of I'm giving you consent to basically simulate non-consent and like that in whatever way that manifests. Doesn't have to be like R-word play specifically. It can just be like I don't know, fuck puppetry, basically. Use me, kind of shit, which can be hot for a lot of people. And like, I think we should be talking about that, like, and stuff like that. And then also talking about like power dynamics. Again, a lot of male gaze going on. Like it's incredibly heterosexual. In fact, this came up on Twitter not too long ago, and I didn't realize this was a thing until, I mean, obviously it's a thing, but I didn't think about it. It's called a threesome when it's a guy and two ladies, but it's called bisexual when it's two guys and a girl. Pretty interesting. Didn't realize that. It's clearly still bisexual in both situations, at least, right? Or pan or whatever. But that's a thing that we need to like really consider. You know what I mean? Like, definitely, it's a thing that we should think about. And normalizing the idea that two dudes and a lady could fuck, or more, or less. I don't know. Like, very fascinating, because again, it just tends to focus on the ones with the dicks are the ones that get pleased, and the ones without the dicks are the ones who do the pleasing. That's pretty much it. Unless, of course, it happens to be a trans person. And then they are also for the pleasing, even if they have a dick. but they're like an object. And it's like, that's fine. You can objectify people consensually. Like that can be fun. That absolutely. You can be objectified consensually. It's the idea of like understanding that dynamic through sexuality, that if I had better sex ed, I would have had better sex. Like that's a little depressing. Like, we could have been fucking way better. We could have been having way better sex if we had known about all of these things growing up and understood, like, consent and all the different things and, like, validity of people's sexualities and what they like, and being less stigmatized and being more honest with your partners about your wants and desires and their wants and desires and the boundaries and all of the things that go into sexuality. And it would be safer for everybody. You wouldn't have people be as sexually frustrated. You wouldn't have people being towing the line at minimum with consent. You wouldn't have people pressuring other people necessarily. At least not as much. It would certainly be a much more healthy sexual space for everybody to interact with. And I don't know anyone more sexually... I don't know anyone in more sexual upheaval than a group of teenagers that go to school together. That is just... I mean, it's just swimming in fucking hormones. Literally fucking hormones. I don't know why we would want to not give them the information they need to arm themselves to be safe.
Because every act of sexuality is an act of rebellion against the status quo, gang.
Is it?
Fonte's class included...
Wait, what, have you fucked and thought, yeah, I'm sticking it to the man here. And not the man you're fucking, I mean the man. You know what I mean? No. So fucking dumb. What are you arguing about? Anyway, objectification can be just fine.
Included material, such as semi-nude women in bondage, porn genres including incest
Women in bondage is fine.
themes, barely legal, and kink and BDSM.
Yes, all of these things are things that maybe we should talk about, yes.
And the most searched pornography terms of 2019. The head of Dalton School, Jim Best, announced last month he was stepping down to focus on other exciting and inspiring opportunities as the school weathers criticism from parents. But again, this is just an extreme version, unfortunately,
It's not really
of the kind of stuff
extreme.
that
Wait,
is
what?
routinely taking place in schools around the country.
That was a private school, though. You said it was a private Manhattan school. It wasn't even a public school. Why are you fucking pretending to be mad about this, you baby?
Where kids are being taught that if you have any sort of traditional values with regard to sex, it's because you are judgmental, and it's because you haven't come to grips with your own body and all this kind of crap.
I mean, I genuinely believe Ben Shapiro has not come to grips with any form of sexuality that he is experiencing in any way. There is a 100% chance that Ben Shapiro has sexual thoughts that he does not get to act out because he is too embarrassed to talk about it, and he is not confident enough in his ability to ask for such things from his sexual partner, which in this case I believe is his wife. Like, I guarantee that he is incredibly repressed. So fucking repressed. And that sucks, dude. Like, wouldn't it be nicer to just, like, you know, have consent and enjoy your partner in whatever way that manifests? It's incredible.
Take your kid out of the school right now. Take your kids out of these schools right now.
That's a private Manhattan schools. Take your kids out of private Manhattan schools right now. All right, dude. Okay, Ben. Okay.